Sometimes the Lord will give me songs that I feel like are maybe for my church or for certain people, and I realize it's actually for me. It's for them, but it's actually also for me. And I wrote a song last year called "Get Your Hopes Up," and it I thought, oh, this is cool. Like I really feel like I got this idea with my friend Bobby to write a song about hope, and because we always hear like, God, don't get your hopes up. You know, anytime you start dreaming or expecting the goodness of the Lord, sometimes you can hear that voice or an actual voice saying, don't get your hopes up. I know from the South that's like a big thing. And we were like, what if we just wrote a song that actually said, yeah, get your hopes up. Like this is what the Lord, he's all about. He's for us. He wants us to walk in His favor and we walk in the goodness of the Lord. And so we did that. We just we started writing, and I remember in that season I started getting hit with like the biggest bouts of depression I think I'd ever had in my life, and just like for no reason, like nothing bad happened, nothing happened to like cause that, you know, and everything was great, and family was great, we loved living here. It just like all of a sudden I just got hit with this depression. I'm like, what is going on? And then I realized like, oh, we're writing a song about hope and like actually trusting and believing in the Lord. And then I realized like I'm writing a song that I'm gonna be singing over myself for probably the rest of my life. And I think those are the ones that really reach people too. Is the songs that are moving you. When they're moving your heart, they're probably gonna move other people. And so ask the Lord for those songs. Ask the Lord for the songs that move you and that can move other people. And not just, I feel like, and I'm rambling, but I just want to say this before I forget, because I know I want to write most of the things I write are like corporate worship songs, and but I know that sometimes I can get too stuck in that vein of like, well, it has to be corporate, it has to be like this simple corporate song that I hate to say dumb it down because it's not dumb, but. You want it to be simple. I want my mother and my grandmother who don't care much about music to be able to like come to church and sing this song for the first time. Just grab hold of it. There's something very special about that, and that's what the goal is for me a lot of times in songs. But I feel like the songs that I've written or that have touched people the most or that I hear the most more testimonies from are the songs that really I didn't write out of like a need to like feel like I had to write a worship song. It was to write a song about what the Lord is doing in me or has done in me or His faithfulness or His goodness through like a hard season. And it's those songs that like I feel like have moved people's heart and have brought healing to people. And there's another song, and a little song story. I wrote this down. Sometimes it's important that we just take the pressure off trying to write a corporate worship song. And you just might need to write what's in your heart. Because that will move people and meets people where they are. I wrote a song called Abraham last year. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay, we'll just do song story time, and that's all we'll do for 15 minutes. But I just wanted to talk about this one real quick. I have a stool. Why am I not using it? And it turns. Wow. So this song Abraham, I was writing for my last album, and I was writing with my buddy Bobby, and he came into the studio one day when we were writing, and he was like, "Hey man, I had a dream last night." And it was about a song that we were writing. And I was like, okay, let's go. I was like, yes, Lord, thank you. And he was like, I just had a dream that we wrote a song called Abraham. And I was like, awesome. So I'm like ready to take notes. Like, what did you see? What was And he was like, that's it. I just had a dream that we wrote a song. That was literally all. I was like, all right, wow, okay. I mean, it's not like super vague. I mean, we at least know where to go in the Bible. Old Testament. And so that was all we had, and we just like, okay, I'm gonna write about Abraham, and it started with just like, let's write about his what if this is him, like his processing to the Lord, and for lack of a better word, and just about taking his son up the mountain and processing like the hearing the promises of the Lord, but then this is actually what he sees. And it's like you've heard the promise of the Lord, but this is what I actually see. So how can I like start looking at what the Lord has said and not what's in front of me? And so we just wrote that, and I just thought, this is awesome. This is a good, and I knew it was like, this is not like a worship song. I'm probably not gonna do this at church on Sunday morning, and but it was just a song. I was like, this is I like this. We like wrote a song about the Abraham in the Bible, and just like, yes, okay, and that's all I thought. I was like, man, that's it. That's all it is. Not all it is, but it didn't like just touch me and like to the depths of my being that day, and but I sent the demo to my dad, and I was just like, hey, what do you think about this? And he was like, oh, that's the best song you've ever written. And he was like, that's not about Abraham, that's about my life. And I was like, oh, wow. And then I sent it to my wife's dad, and he said the same thing. He's like, this is about me. And I was like, wow. And then my wife was like, hey, this is like our story, like how we like came from North Carolina, just our journey and trusting in the Lord. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then I'm like, oh. I mean, it really took me that long. I'm like, it might sound, might read a song and think, wow, so deep. No, that is like surface level. I'm just like, oh. I thought I was writing a story about a Bible character, and here it's like really like the Lord, like, and it's like used it. But I love that. I love that, like, if we hadn't have sat down and just be disciplined and go for this thing, and not even in the moment feel super inspired. There were moments of inspiration through it, which we'll talk about that in a minute. But it wasn't like this like light came on or like the glory cloud, the portal from heaven opened up and just and I was like, I don't remember anything. We just came out of there and there was a song. I remember everything, and most of it was hard. So I want to say one thing too. Here, finding new ways to say old things. I think that's like especially in church and in worship, I think that's like such a big thing right now, and I know for me it's like a desire from my heart and a cry, like it's one of my prayers in songwriting. It's like, how can I like find these like truths that never change about the Lord and that are in the Word, but like maybe like say them in a fresh way that like it feels like breathed on in a new way. That makes sense. And I think I don't know that there's secret ways to it other than just like practical. I mean, first of all, ask the Lord for these things. Ask the Lord to give you songs that say things in a fresh way. One of my prayers, I've always like asked the Lord. I'm like, Lord, I want the songs that like I got this one of my mentors, this worship leader. She said she was like, Josh, you should like, I feel like there's songs in heaven, and you just need to ask the Lord for the songs that no one's asking him for. I was like, I don't even know what that means, but he's like, there's these songs, there are these songs that have yet to be written, and you just need to ask the Lord to show them to you. And then practically the things that have helped me as just reading the Bible, but there's so many new like translations of the Bible that are like the Passion and the Message that are just so great at like unpacking these truths in language that we can understand a little better, and they help you a lot. Reading old hymns there's some amazing lyrics in these old hymns that we just don't. You might hear them in an old way. You hear them in like maybe I go back to like my grandmother's church and the Methodist church and hear them and they feel like old to me or not fresh. But if I just sit and read these words, they're like so powerful, and which is another just even trick in worship tricks. We should do a worship tricks class, and I don't mean that bad, but but just taking old hymns and like putting new music, new ways to sing them. But I feel like there actually are new hymns being written today that I feel like the song that Brian and Phil wrote, Living Hope, it's like it's got this old hymn kind of feel to it, doesn't it? It feels like it's like you hear it and you're like, I feel like I've heard that before, but it's new and it's fresh, and it's a fresh take on the gospel. And there's so many of those. There's the So Will I. That's another one that's just wow. And 10,000 Reasons. When I heard that song, I was like, this feels like this fresh hymn that there's so go back and read those. One thing is write as if you're talking to a close friend or a family member. And when I was writing, time for song story number 3. So I wrote the song "The War Is Over," and it started with, it really was just a song of me talking to my sister, and she was going through a rough time. She's had a rough life, and she's living for the Lord. Everything's great, especially for the cameras in case she ever sees this. I love you. You know I love you. And but it was this. I was just like, I wanted to sing like the gospel message to her in a way like it was just me and her talking, and I felt like she was fighting for things that really like the Lord has already like won, you know. And so I just started writing with Bobby, my friend again, who one of these days I'll actually do a class with Bobby. I always talk about him, and he really exists. I promise. If he didn't, I would totally take credit for all these songs. But I felt like I just wanted to tell her, like, stop fighting. The war is over. Like, put all your weapons on the ground and like let's just like here's the truth about what the Lord has done for us. And it felt like this fresh thing to me, to a way to sing about the gospel. And so yeah. I went back. I wrote down, write what is in your heart. I'm big about writing what is in your heart. What does it mean to you? I think sometimes we try so hard to say something new that we don't really say anything that will actually like move people. Going back to what I said, and it's usually if you commit to writing what is moving you, like I said, it'll bring new life to your songs. And I have another practical thing. My time is flying. Stop that clock. I have one of the practical things. I have a friend. Actually, they're going to be here next week at the Torwalds, Brian and Katie, and he wrote the song, obviously, Holy Spirit. And I remember asking him, one of the first things I asked him when I met him was like, how did you write that song? And because that's another thing. If you like meet someone and they like write a song that you love, just be like, how do you write that? How did you? What was that story? Tell me right now. And it's like it's fine. It's fine. It's actually people love that. I mean, don't be weird, but like, you know. But he was like, man, this is what he told me that day, and I'm hoping he wasn't kidding. I'll ask him next week when he's here. But he said, man, you know that old song that Benny Hinn used to always sing, like, Holy Spirit, thou art welcome in this place. He's like, man, I heard that song. I was like, I just want to write, like, what's a new version of that song? Like, what's a fresh take on that song? And I was like, wow. And that's what you did. Come on. Like, just boom. I love that. I love like practical stories that end up being like God moments, you know, when you just think like, I just practically thought I'm going to do, and then the Lord's like, life. And yeah, I love that. Just think of that. Go back and listen to an old song and like, wow, I want to write a fresh take on this. The other day I was in a songwriting session, and this song might never see the light of day, but I started writing a song with two guys, and we had these verses, and the chorus we're going after like started to feel like this old chorus to me. I was like, what is that? This is some old song. And then I realized it reminded me of this song, in my life, Lord, be glorified. Has anybody heard that song? It's an old song, old chorus. And I looked it up, and I was like, does that chorus have like any verses? And it's just that song. And I was like, what if we just wrote verses to that and a bridge and just like sang these verses and then went to that chorus and just sang that old chorus. And so that's what we did. And I've never done it. I have like a horrible demo of it, but it just felt like it brought that whole chorus fresh to me again. And I've been going through the house singing that old chorus for like the last 2 weeks, and it was because I tried to write new verses to it. And it might only be just to stir me up to do something else like that, or to write something else new, but just go for stuff like that.